Okay, we're going to use this video for 5.4 support for college algebra. Alright, so question 1, I'm given f of x is going to equal 8x plus x squared. They want me to find a f of t minus 2, b f of p plus 2, c f of a plus h minus f of a, d f of t minus 3 plus c, and then e will be f of a plus 5. Alright, so let's work part A first. A, we're going to find f of t minus 2. So that's going to equal this function 8 times our x plus our x squared. And for the two x's in our equation, we're going to put t minus 2. Alright, so remember, I'm going to simplify this. I got to work my exponents first. So I'm going to figure out what is t minus 2 times t minus 2 equal. If we FOIL that, we get a t squared minus 2t minus 2t plus 4. Adding the like terms, we get t squared minus 4t plus 4. I'm now going to put that in for my t minus 2 squared. So I'm going to bring down the 8 times the t minus 2 plus, over here I now have a t squared minus 4t plus 4. Now, the next step would be to take care of any multiplication, and the only multiplication I got is right here doing my distributive property. So 8 times t is 8t. 8 times negative 2 is a negative 16, plus my t squared minus 4t plus 4. Alright, to finish this off, I'm going to put it in order and then add my like terms. So the first thing I would put is my t squared, because that's got the highest exponent. Next, this 8t and the negative 4t add together. Well, 8 and negative 4 give me a positive 4t. So the variable stays the same when you add and subtract. And then finally, that negative 16 and that positive 4 give me a negative 12. Final answer. Okay, so now we go to B. B wants me to find f of p plus 2. Alright, so remember, here's my function 8 times my x plus my x squared. Alright, remember, this time in place of the x, we're going to put p plus 2. P plus 2. Alright, so once again, I got to start with the exponent. So that's going to be a p plus 2 times a p plus 2. So after this exercise, you will definitely be good foiling. Alright, p times p is p squared. P times 2 is 2p. 2 times p is 2p. 2 times 2 is 4. And then once again, the like terms, I get p squared plus 2 and 2 give me 4p plus 4. I'm now going to replace that with that. So I get my 8 times my p plus 2 plus my p squared plus 4p plus 4. Now remember, once again, we're going to multiply before we do any adding. So let's multiply that 8 through those parentheses. I get an 8p plus 8 times 2 is 16. And then I'm bringing everything else down. Alright, and if y'all remember, just like a while ago, I'm going to put them in order and add my like terms. So first will be the p squared. Then the 8p and the 4p will add together and give me 12p. Then the 16 and the 4 will add together, giving me 20. And that would be my final answer. So if you notice, I go until I can't add any more like terms, and then I sort of stop. All right, C, that's an f of a plus h minus an f of a. So y'all guess what? This is going to be a big one, because f of a plus h is going to be my equation. So I'm going to put parentheses since I got two of these. This will be my f a plus h. This will be my f of a. So remember, each one of these will have a 8 times our x plus our x squared. This one will have a 8 times my x plus my x squared. Alright, so the first one has f of a plus h in it. So in place of those x's, we got to put a plus h. The second one right here, my f of a over here, wants me to put an a in front of those x's. Alright, so what we're going to do, I'm going to bring my equals over with this one. So in my first parentheses, I'm going to start with my exponent. So let's see what a plus h squared equals. A plus h squared is a plus h times a plus h, which gives me a squared plus a ah plus another ah plus h squared. Adding those like terms, we get a squared plus 2ah plus h squared. That's going to go in place of this part right here. So I'm going to bring down my 8, my a plus h, plus, let's put in our a squared plus 2ah plus h squared. Alright, first parentheses, minus, over here I'm just going to figure out what a squared, and that's going to be 8 times a plus my a squared over here. Alright, now I'm going to get rid of these parentheses by doing my multiplying, and then I can multiply that. So this gives me a 8a plus 8h plus my a squared plus my 2ah plus my h squared. All that minus 8 times a is 8a plus my a squared. Alright, let's get rid of the parentheses. Remember, to get rid of parentheses, I got to distribute my subtraction over here. So the first one comes out 8a plus 8h plus a squared plus 2ah plus h squared minus 8a minus a squared. Alright, let's see. Ooh, if you notice here, you see that 8a? That 8a will cancel with that negative 8a. Also, look at this. This a squared cancels with that a squared because it's negative. So all that's left is 8h plus 2ah plus h squared. Nothing else left, no like terms, so that would be my final answer. Oh, y'all, this is a long problem, right? Number D. D is a f of t minus 3 plus a c. So what that means is, let's figure out what f of t minus 3 is. That's going to be 8 times my x plus my x squared. After that, we got a plus c. Okay, so that's what they mean by when they add a c at the end, okay? Now, in place of these x's, we're going to put t minus 3, t minus 3. Alright, so once again, I got to figure out what the t minus 3 squared is, because that's where my exponent is first. So we're going to write that twice and FOIL again. So I get t squared minus 3t minus 3t. Negative and negative makes that a positive 9. I'm going to add like terms, so I get t squared minus 6t plus 9. Remember, when you add, if they're both negative, it stays negative. Alright, so let me bring this down. I got my 8 times my t minus 3 plus, let's put that in for this part, and I get a t squared minus 6t plus 9, and then bring down my plus c. So all we did was replace this right there, okay? Now, all I can do is get rid of my parentheses by multiplying. So 8 times t is 8t. 8 times negative 3 is negative 24. Plus my t squared minus my 6t plus 9 plus my c. Alright, you guess it. It's time to put them in order and add like terms. So the t squared is going first. Alright, y'all, the 8t will add to that negative 6t. 8 and negative 6 give me a positive 2t. The 24 negative will add to the 9. So a negative 24 and 9 give me a negative 15. And guess what? At the very end will be my plus c. Alright, so let's see. E is f of a plus 5. So remember, once again, that's going to be 8 times my x plus my x squared. And at the very end of that will be a plus 5. Okay, because we got to add 5 at the end of our function since we got that done like that. And in place of the parentheses for my x's will be just a for both of those. So let's see what that does. Working the exponent first, I bring down my 8a plus 8 times a is a squared plus my 5. And guess what? No like terms, so all I'm going to do is put them in order as my a squared plus my 8a plus my 5 and be done. Alright, y'all, so I'm going to work a few parts of this number 2, but I'm not going to be able to get it all done because of time. But they're giving me f of x equals 4x squared minus 3x plus 6. So let me do a part A first. A, they want me to find f of t minus 5. Alright, so remember, we're going to rewrite this using parentheses for these x's. So I got my 4 times my x squared minus 3 times my x plus 6. Inside for these x's, we're now going to put the t minus 5, t minus 5. Alright, so you guessed it. First thing I'm going to do is figure out what t minus 5 times t minus 5 is, so I can replace that t minus 5 squared, because I got to start with exponents. So that's going to give me t squared minus 5t minus 5t plus 25, because that's negative times a negative. So let's add these together in the middle. So I got my t squared minus 10t plus 25. We're going to replace that with that now. So that's going to equal 4 times t squared minus 10t plus 25 minus 3 times my t minus 5 plus 6. Alright, so next we would do our multiplying. So we got to distribute the 4 to all 3 of these, the negative 3 to both of those. So 4 times t squared is 4t squared. 4 times negative 10t is a negative 40t. 4 times 25 is a 100. Negative 3 times t is negative 3t. Negative 3 times negative 5 is a positive 15 plus my 6. Alright, so guess what? Put them in order and combine like terms. So the 4t squared comes down. Negative 40t, negative 3t, give me a negative 43t. 100 plus 15 is 115. 115 plus 6 is 121. Alright, let me see what they got for the B. B, they want me to find f of p plus 4. So what I'm going to do, that is going to be really similar to A. I want to move to C on this one, because this one's got an f of A plus H minus a f of A. Remember, this is the big one. So that's going to equal my f of A plus H. So remember, on these ones, I'm going to use parentheses to put them in. So where's my function? 4 times my x squared minus 3 times my x plus 6. Same thing's going over here. 4 times my x squared minus 3 times my x plus 6. So the first one I got to put an A plus H. A plus H. Second one I got to put an A and an A. Alright, so remember, the first thing I'm going to do is figure out what A plus H squared is. So that's going to be A plus H times A plus H, which gives me A squared plus an AH plus an AH plus H squared. So adding them together, I get A squared plus 2AH plus H squared. That's going to replace this part right here. Whoops, so here's my equals. So the first parentheses, I'll have 4 times what we got here, A squared plus 2AH plus H squared minus 3 times my A plus H plus 6. All that minus, well, right here is going to give me a 4A squared minus 3A plus 6. Alright, so watch what we do now. We're going to take this first big parentheses and distribute the 4 through them and a negative 3 through those two. Then I'm going to drop parentheses because I want to distribute that negative through them 3 right there. So here we go. We get a 4A squared. 4 times 2 gives me a 8AH. 4 times H squared gives me a 4H squared. Minus 3 times A is a minus 3A. Minus 3 times H is a minus 3H. Plus 6. Now here we go distributing. Negative times a positive is a negative 4A squared. Negative times a negative is a positive 3A. Negative times positive is a negative 6. Now if you distribute these negatives right, you'll watch something happen. 4A squared, negative 4A squared, cancel. Negative 3A, positive 3A, cancel. 6, negative 6, cancel. All that's left is 8AH plus my 4H squared minus my 3H. Final answer. Alright, so that's about the time we got for today. But remember, all these are is writing down those functions and then putting what they're telling you to put in for those x's. These require a lot of fooling, as you've seen on every one of these, okay? Good luck.